Welcome back. I am Jared Case, curator of film exhibitions at the Dryden Theater and the George Eastman Museum, with another streaming recommendation. And we're continuing to look at musicals here on Wednesday, and truth be told, it's another Fred Astaire film. This time we're going with 1951's Royal Wedding, directed by Stanley Donen, and starring Fred Astaire and Jane Powell as a brother-sister dance act who get booked in London in 1947, right around the time of the Royal Wedding between Princess Elizabeth and Philip Mountbatten. Now, the plot revolves around their career and their decision about whether or not they want to stay together as an act, because they both have romantic complications when they get to London. Powell falls in love with a pre-Rat Pack Peter Lawford, and Astaire falls in love with Anne Ashmond, who is played by Sarah Churchill, actually the daughter of Winston Churchill, who had a substantial career in films over a few decades. I would think it's fair to say that this film is primarily known for its dance sequences, and this is 1951, the same year that American in Paris came out, and dance sequences, particularly solo dance sequences or partner dance sequences, became more complex and elaborate, especially when it comes to film and the techniques that film could offer that stage could not. So there are three main ones from Royal Wedding that are remembered well. The first has to do with Powell and Astaire dancing on board ship. And as the ship sways with the waves, moves back and forth, so does the dance floor move. And Astaire and Powell need to adjust to the moving floor and the way that it tilts. And of course, it's physically tilting so that they can dance along with it. The next is a sequence where Astaire is dancing with a hat rack, not only a hat rack, but many other athletic pieces of athletic equipment that are in the gym, particularly with the hat rack, though, which was weighted on the bottom. And Astaire went through many different versions of this before he got it right to the point where it was weighted enough that it moved exactly like he wanted in the graceful way that he could use it as a partner. But it reminded me very much of a similar sequence with drums that he does 2 years later in The Bandwagon. So maybe it's a precursor to that. And of course, there's the sequence where Fred Astaire is dancing and appears to be actually dancing on the ceiling, which I guess he was. But the way that they did this was they built an entire room that Astaire would dance in that was put on a gimbal that could go all the way around. And they mounted the camera in the perspective attached to that room with the perspective that the floor would always be at the bottom of the image. And that camera would move right along with the entire room, so that as Astaire danced up onto the walls and then onto the ceiling, the gravity would be pulling him down. But our subjective view of that was always that the floor of the room was on the bottom. So it looked like he was magically dancing on the ceiling. And it's said that this film, or the story of the film, was based loosely on Fred Astaire and his sister Adele Astaire. They had been a dancing team, the partners, up until the early 30s when when they went to London and they were performing there. And Adele met and fell in love with Lord Charles Cavendish, who is the son of the Duke of Devonshire. So they broke up in 1931, and of course Astaire wasn't on screen until 1933, so there was never actually a film with Fred and Adele dancing together in that original partnership. But it's a wonderful film. The last time that we showed it was as a series of summer romance. So it's a little cool here in Rochester. It's not quite summer yet, but maybe we can use this to warm ourselves up and cross our fingers for a little summer weather. It's Royal Wedding from 1951. It's streaming on Amazon Prime Video. I hope you enjoy it. Come on back for another recommendation. Thanks.